I'm making this video to show how I repair or replace a couple warped floorboards in our kitchen. So this is laminate flooring, which is well known to not be very water resistant. And my nephew was over, and he's about 3 years old, and had a bottle of bubbles, which he accidentally dropped, and it got wiped up pretty quickly. But because it was like soapy water, and if I remember correctly, soapy water has very little surface tension, so it really soaked in really quickly. Like, it didn't bead on top; it just went right underneath through the boards. And then by the end of the day, after it all dried, we had this little warped spot right here. It's kind of hard to see how bad it is, but if I take this water bottle, which is sealed, so I can't make it worse, you can kind of see how much warp that is. Like, you can see how much the bottle moves side to side, where if you put it in this corner, it's solid. So that just kind of shows you how high the boards are here. Like I said, it's just really hard to see, but they swelled up pretty bad. So this board here, which goes to the cabinets, this full-length board, and then another full-length board need to be replaced. Luckily, they still sell the flooring that this was made out of, and so I was able to buy a box of it, and we'll be able to take a couple panels out and replace those. If you have older flooring and you cannot get the same flooring boards, what I'd recommend doing is, like, you can kind of see where it is, and it is basically dead center in the kitchen. So if you have something like this where it's in a very high traffic area, it's warped a couple boards that maybe they don't have to be replaced, but they're kind of, swollen and are going to be a problem there. What you can do is you could pull them up and then move them to a location that's maybe a little more inconspicuous. If you can put it in a different spot that has a carpet or like a rug, like right here, we got this like mat we put right in front of where the sink is. You move those boards to a different spot, or at least separate them. So, this one here is somewhere, but not next to another swollen board, so it's not as obvious, or you kind of know what I mean. So first step is, what I got to do is I got to pull the stove out and the fridge, move those out of the way, and then pull the trim or the kick boards from underneath the cabinets. And basically what you want to do is you want to figure out which wall is closest that you can pull the boards up from the wall. So I know it goes underneath the oven and underneath the fridge, so once I pull those out, then I can pop the boards, start from that wall where those are, pop them out, and then start bringing them out. I've already taken the stove out just to see which way the boards go. Luckily, they lay down where I'm starting from this end. You can lay this board, you start from this way, and then you put the next board down, lay it down, next board down, lay it down, and then finish at this wall. So that helps me, because that means pulling it up, I can start at this corner and then start making my way out. So you kind of have to peel it back as much as possible. I think I just have to take one baseboard off beside the fridge, and that's it, and I should be able to get most of them out. So I'm going to pull the fridge and the oven out, and then I'll pull the kick panels or kick boards from underneath the cabinets, and then we'll go on from there. So I've pulled the fridge out, pulled the stove out, moved them off of the boards that I'm going to be pulling out. And what I ended up doing was I took some green, like, painter's masking tape, and I put a piece of tape on every individual piece of board, and then I labeled the tape, starting with A, B, C, D, E, etc. What was that one? That one says G. And then once I put all the pieces of tape down, I took a notepad and kind of drew out the boards and which markings I put them under. That way, when I put it back together, it's basically a big puzzle. When I put it back together, I won't have any problems figuring out which cut piece went where or whatever. I've also pulled off all the kickboards and one piece of trim. Put them up over there. There's actually quite a fight getting the boards off underneath the cabinets. Trim is actually pretty easy to come off. All you want to do is you want to make sure you scribe along the top if there's some caulking on there, and then you want to use like a pry tool like this, nice and thin. You can slide it in there, start prying away bit by bit until it pops off. Same thing with the kickboards. So then what you need to do is start pulling boards up. So what I'm going to do is I'll show you. You want to use this tool again, and you just want to pop it up. Once it's popped up, I'm going to try to do this with one hand. There we go. In this area, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of prop them up like that. Now with those ones done, I should be able to just do one and then the other, like so. So, and then here, and then here. Makes it pretty easy. Now this board here is not going to pop up, and the reason why is because I need to do this one here first. So you've got your tongue and your groove and such, so you need to always start at one end. So I'll show you here. This board comes up quite easily by itself. Just prop that up there. Now I can't lift this one up. Like, imagine this piece here is held down because it's being held by another piece. This one here won't lift up by itself. You have to lift this one off, and then this one here will come up right after. Now, this is going in the reverse way. So when I put this back together, it'll be a little bit trickier putting it back together because it's actually going in backwards. So this piece here, it looks like it's in, but you can kind of see how it's popped up there. And the reason why is because this groove has to be really locked in well. So just be aware that when you're putting it back together, you're actually going backwards. So you just have to be extra careful when putting it all back together. So I'm just going to go ahead, pull those ones up. And then there's one down here that's pretty small. There we go. So I'm going to put this one over here. G2, and then this one should, oh, that one's going to be a little bit tighter getting off there. So what I might have to do is I might have to shave this piece off here, or try just kind of prying it past, and if it chips this one board a little bit, then I'll just have to deal with it. And then I might have to trim it, but this gets covered by a kickboard anyways, so if I have to cut that with a multi-tool or something like that, then that's what I have to do. So I'll do that, and then keep going, and then I'll once I get to another step, I'll start taping again. So I got these other boards popped up. Now this next board here has this little bit of overlap, so I technically need to pop this board up. The problem is that this board goes underneath that baseboard and then goes underneath the it's like a big pantry. It's kind of hard to see unless I go like this. It's a really tall pantry full of food, which is built on top of the laminate. So to get this one board out, I would have to pull all that trim off, the trim beside and behind that pantry, pull that whole pantry right out, pull all those boards up along that wall to get this one board out. Now, instead of doing that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this glass holder, or it's basically a big suction cup for like picking up glass or smooth objects. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to suction cup this to the laminate, and then I'm going to tap this board out. It will break the small little tongue or groove or whichever on here. There's like this little, you can kind of see this little lip, and you can kind of see this one right there. It will break that off. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of tape on here with an X. Sorry, a little bit of tape on here with an X. And that way I remember that when I'm putting this all back together, I need to put a small bead of glue here. And I'm going to put a small bead of glue on there, and then put a heavy weight on it, something that's something pretty heavy. Maybe I'll just push the fridge over so the fridge is putting pressure on there overnight, and then that way it'll just glue that one piece in. Now, everybody recommends not gluing laminate. It's true, you do not want to glue full laminate floors, but doing one little small end like that won't hurt anything. So basically, to save myself a lot of headache, I'm just gonna put the suction cup on there and tap it out. So finally got to the point of where I'm at the boards I need to take out, where I'm replacing, and I was able to get these ones out without having to remove the other ones. A little bit of a fight with the suction cup and tapping away. It took quite a bit to get it out, but came off. And to just show you, this groove that was in here is now gone. It's right there. So that's what I was talking about, how it breaks off. So when I go tap this together, these grooves are okay. So I'll tap it in, tap it in, tap it in, and when I get to here, I'll take my carpenter's glue and put a nice big bead of carpenter's glue on this board right here. Tap it the rest of the way in until it oozes out. You know, making sure it's nice and solid. I'll wipe it off and then put a heavy weight on it, and that way it's nice and clean and solid and not gonna separate. So these are the boards I'm replacing, and let's see there, so you can see, oh, it was focused, how warped it is. Let's see if it'll focus now. There we go, right there. So that's where it warped and got swollen. So just that in there, and then this one here I think is okay. Nothing on that one, so that one I can keep. And then it's these two right here that I gotta pop off. This one I'm gonna have to hammer out as well, just like over here, just because of the overlap. But once I tap that one out, then I'll be able to pull this board out, which has a little bit of a swollen section, and this board out here. And once those are gone, then I'll put some new ones in. Alright, so got all the boards up and cut my new boards to the length. So what I did is I just took the old ones, buttoned them up with the new ones, cut them, transferred the stickers over so I know which ones they are for. And then now it's just starting to do the reassembly. So 3 of them were warped, and then this one here, the corner, was actually cracked, which I thought I left the board somewhere. Oh, I probably left it downstairs. But this corner here had a crack in it that I noticed, and then I pushed on it and it just broke down. So while I had all of this up to right here, I thought I might as well pull this one board up and replace that one at the same time. So now it's just as simple as going through and reinstalling. Now what you need to do is because it's going backwards, there's this gap here, and you want to make sure that's fully seated. And you'll know if it's not fully seated because the board just won't lay flat, right? So right now it's laying pretty flat, nice and tight, where if it wasn't fully in, if it was just out just that tiny bit where you think it's flat but it's not, it just won't go down. So you want to make sure it's fully in, and there. So, and then you can use a tapping block, you know, just a piece of wood or an old one of these where you can kind of cut it so it's just, you lock it all in place and then tap, 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 and you tap that to make sure that this is fully seated, because you don't want to put it all back together and then have one board that's just not clipped in. So I'm going to go and I'm going to start piecing this all back together, and when I get to a point of where I need to glue one of those ends, I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so I'm at the point where I'm going to be tapping this one board back into place, and like I said, the little tongue or the little notch breaks off when you pull it apart like that. It's not great that that happens, but what we can do is we can put a little bit of glue just on this one edge, just to hold these two boards together, just like what this would be doing. It's definitely, I've done it with a couple other boards and I've never had a problem with it, so should be okay. Not the best practice, but it works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some carpenter's glue, or whatever you want to call it. It's wood glue. And I'm going to put a nice big bead in there. And then you just want to make sure you have a wet cloth to wipe off the excess when it kind of squeezes out of there. So what I'm going to do, put a bead in here. Like so. I'm going to keep it a little bit away from the corners just so that I don't have too much excess going on there. And then I need to tap it in. I'm just going to put this cap on so it doesn't dry out. And what I'm using is this tapping block, or whatever you want to call it. And what it does is it hooks on to the end of the board and you hit this lip. Now if you hit the board that you're installing, it can easily damage the board, just like that. So what I did was I took one of the ones that was actually I'm replacing, and I cut the end off so I can clip that in there, hammer against that, which then evenly hits this piece, but I'm not going to chip the one I'm putting in. So I'm just going to put this down, and hopefully you'll be able to see what happens with the glue when I do this. So it might get a little bit loud. Just like that. And then what you want to do is take your wet cloth and wipe up all the excess. Like so. Just want to get as much of that off as possible. Now you want to use a damp cloth, not so wet that it soaks into the floor. And I'm going to use this dry towel and wipe that off. And there we go. So that piece is on there, nice and flat. And I don't think I'm going to really have to put anything on there to put pressure on it, just because it's kind of holding in there by itself really nicely. So, perfect. All right. So when I do these other pieces, I'll do the same thing, just to make sure that these ends don't separate, and should be good. Okay, so pretty much got all the flooring back installed. Just gotta put these last couple pieces in, which are pretty simple, just like a puzzle. And like I said before, you just want to make sure that those fully seat in, fold down. Yeah, good. And then just a couple more. There we go. All with just one hand. And of course this one, last one, not so easy. Just use this. Try and do this one. Let's see. Just gotta get this one side in. There. There we go. There. Perfect. Okay. So that's all in now. All the boards are in, so now all I gotta do is peel up all the tape and then put that baseboard on there, put the kickboards back in underneath the cabinets, and then push the fridge and stove back in. Okay, so floors all together. The stove and fridge are back in place. I put the kickboards back on just around the bases there, And the trim beside the fridge is back in as well. And it looks great. No more spot. I think the spot that was wet or had damage was... I don't even remember where it was. I think it was right here. I think right there. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's where it was. I'll have to look at the first video. So, yeah, no, flooring looks great. Wife was very pleasantly surprised to see that it was already done. And I would say, including time filming and talking and such, it took me about 2 hours from starting by pulling out the stove and the fridge, and to the point of nailing the kickboards back on. So it's really not that difficult to do. Now, I was very lucky with the positioning of this warped spot. So it depends on where the damage is, how much the damage is, and such. You know, if you had a big spill and it's possible it went past the underlay, then you might have a bit more to work underneath than you hope you will have. But if it's something small like that and you have boards that you can use, then just give it a shot yourself. You know, take a weekend and just start pulling it apart, and you'll be amazed at how easy it really is to do. But just take your time. Make sure you put all the boards down properly, and just don't rush, because you don't want to put it back together and then find out that one board isn't clipped in properly. Because if, say, one board here isn't clipped in properly, you know, say this board here, when you get, you know, to over here, there might be even bigger gaps in the floor for some reason, and soft spots and stuff like that. So take your time, and if you find that you just get a little bit buried, or it's a little more than you think you can handle, then it's best probably just to call an expert. But if you think you can do it, give it a shot. All right, well, hopefully this video was somewhat helpful to people. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Thanks for watching.